Welcome to the Ultimate Planet Zoo review. Today we are going through various points to really look into the final review after 5 years of Planet Zoo. Now I know there is still a DLC to come and there is still some hope we get ongoing support, but let's face it, reality is there's no real big change happening anymore, simply due to the fact that Frontier is moving on to the next CMS games. One is going to be announced rather soon, another one is already been announced for next year, Jurassic World Evolution 3, and in 2026 another CMS with a very well-known setting is coming out, which highly likely may actually be Planet Zoo 2. So let's wrap up Planet Zoo, and the points we're going through today are the animals as the very first big thing of each zoo game out there. Then we are going to have a look in AI and animation, followed by the gameplay. We are going to have a little dip into Sandbox mode. Then we will talk about customizability, completion, longevity, and we will wrap it up in a conclusion. While we talk about this, you'll see a flyover of one of my most detailed zoos, Zoo Sicily, and I will eventually, if I make it, put in a couple of footage things that highlight what I'm talking about. So let's first of all start with the animals, and we can keep that rather short because the animals Frontier have brought to the table are absolutely fantastic and arguably the best animals in any zoo game out there. They may well be better animals in RPGs or in some FPS games or maybe even in some other story-driven games, but those animals are most likely not animals in a zoo game or animals that you can interact with. So being animals in here that all have interaction with enrichment, with your zoo, with guests and so on, specifically with the recently added petting zoo mechanic, even an actual interaction with your guest, this is very, very close to a 5-star rating for me personally. There are some couple of things where I feel like they have missed out on certain animations lacking that are pretty characteristic for certain animals, and so I feel like I can't give them 5 stars in this category, but definitely 4.5 stars. There's really not much you can do better with these animals, from their models, texturing, fur, overall set of animations. We can argue about how great they are, but at the end of the day, they have all a pretty amazing set of different animations, and even looking at the animals for a couple of minutes, you'll have a hard time finding repetitive animations, and I feel like this is something not even praised enough. And recently we've been looking more into animals, doing some tours and so on, and it just shows how absurdly great this is at certain points, like really, really great, and I feel still so happy looking at these animations every now and then. But as I said, this was a very easy topic because this is the major feature of this game, animals being the star of the show. Really good stuff. But let's talk about the AI and the animations a bit more in detail, because I wanted to separate that from each other, because I feel like you don't do justice to the animals if you kind of criticize the technology maybe too much, and 4 or 5 years ago is not even the truth. You have to go back like 8 years or so when they established the system. So we have almost a decade of technology that has been evolved since then, and you have to take that into account. And based on this, I feel like the animations and specifically the navigation system of the games, or in the professional terms, the locomotion system, which is basically how the animals traverse the area, I still want to quickly emphasize on, we have been now getting used to how great that is, but let's not forget, this, what you see on screen right now, is everything custom built. Every single rock, every single tree, every single item has been placed manually, and these animals are able to traverse this very, very nicely and utilize the habitat as their own, interact with the pieces you said, and if you change things, they will react to this. Yeah, there are some glitches, and you will always, whenever you have a session playing this game, you will find glitches and stuff like that, but hell, imagine how much of a step up that is from games before that, where everything was kind of in a grid system, in a frame. You had just like some very limited amounts of customizability options. So the AI they have brought to the table is absolutely amazing. I still only want to give 4 or 5 stars here because I feel like there is a lot of improvement, and also the AI at some point could be better. Hitboxes are not really great, but considering where we've been coming from, and we always have to put that in perspective, and even I fall into that trap very often to complain about that a lot and vocally, because I know it can be better, but considering when this has been done and what we've been used to before, this is really, really great how they pulled that off. Alright, next category is the gameplay. And you know that I'm more of a sandbox player myself, but I took my time to really play a lot of franchise mode. I played some scenarios, not all of them though, and I played a lot of other stuff. I also had a challenge mode and all these things, so I feel eligible to talk about the management. And we all know that this may actually not be Frontier's strongest part. The management itself is the ingredients we have in this game are very great, and I don't think that this is maybe just me being too positive. I feel like if you really look at what the game has, just from the facts, it could be an absolutely crazy management game. Imagine, like, I really love the fact that they went with 2 currencies of having the conservation credits and actual money as 2 currencies in this game to juggle. We have, with all the updates, we got such a crazy roster of education, starting from education boards to info boards to speakers to information points to education points to tours to roaming educators to educator shows to all these things that they brought in over the time, and now even having a petting zoo mechanic that also pays into the education part and getting to know animals. There is so much great stuff about heating system, coolings, and enrichment of the animals, and the fact that enrichment becomes less intense for animals over time, so you have to swap out enrichment to make sure that the animals still do well and all these things. But of all these things, there is this one big Frontier issue, I want to call it, and this is the balancing. All these items are great, but they are overshadowed by the fact that as soon as you have enough money, all of these things basically become neglectable and irrelevant, because you can just throw money at everything and everything will work. And I feel like there are so many missed opportunities, unfortunately, in there, that I want to say this is one of the biggest parts where Frontier could improve to a second iteration of this game. I feel like there is so many things that you could do more storytelling driven. Also the fact that they have hidden most of the blueprints for many players by the fact as soon as you use, for example, if I build a blueprint and I want to build a blueprint for you guys in the South American pack or style, and you want to utilize that in South American Zoo, as soon as I use a piece that is tagged as a European set piece, you will have to research both, and also you have to own both things. And I feel like this is a bit of a pity, because this is for many players that don't want to build that intricate like I do and many other creators do, which I can totally understand. You just want to maybe spend an hour and play the game, and so it becomes obviously very annoying if you spend that hour only to build one shelter. That's not the point and the goal of your way of playing the game. So it would be lovely if you could just be able to download every single shelter that is labeled as South American, and you've researched the South American pack, and you also have purchased the South American DLC, and just use these things. And well, obviously you shouldn't be able then to edit them later on or utilize the pieces in there, because it has to be a fixed piece. But that's what people want, and I feel like this is one of the biggest lost opportunities or missed opportunities in that sense. But getting from one of the weakest points of this game, and just to conclude that, I will give the management a 3 out of 5, which, and I want to add that this is a very fair judgment, because I want to highlight all the items that we have in there, and I want to kind of make sure that the reward is in, that Frontier has brought so many cool new things to the system. But to be honest, it's a stretch. 2.5 would also been a good one, but I feel like there's enough in there to give them the 3 out of 5, but you know. Anyways, let's go to Sandbox, and Sandbox, obviously my strong part, my beloved, my ultimate thing. And I, what shall I say? This is one of the, if not the best sandbox games out there. There is an absolute unlimited amount of possibilities you have in there. You can literally build everything you want. Hell, even they created a diorama mode out of my weird idea to create dioramas, and Frontier has taken that idea and brought that into the game as a diorama mode, which again gives you even more freedom to build scenes and stuff that is right out of your imagination. And I am such a massive fan of that system, and they have fixed so many issues we had. And just to be fair, at the very beginning of this game, I potentially would have given the sandbox mode a 4 out of 5 maybe, and now it's a definite 5 out of 5, simply because they have fixed most of the issues we had at the beginning. If I want to call one or two caveats about the sandbox mode, I think the one is that we still are only able to purchase 4 animals from the market at a time, which I don't think is great. And the second one is that we still have to kind of go for and breed for juveniles and stuff. I think for a sandbox it would be great to just decide, hey, I wanna have 6 adults and 5 kids and just put them in. But this alone may already be my biggest issue of them all, and that's already it, I guess. The rest is just insane. Okay, so 5 out of 5, easy. The next one is customizability. And you could think now that I give it a 5 out of 5, but I don't. And I will right away tell you my rating, which is 4 out of 5. And I'm gonna give you the reason why. And this reason is one specific area of the game, and that is exhibits. Now, I still understand why Frontier went the route of having small exhibits and walkthrough exhibits. There are just some animals that don't work as a habitat animal in general. However, and this is one thing I want to talk about now. This is a point where we have to talk about Frontier kind of changing the way of doing things. At the beginning, they said that some of the animals are just too small to be able to realize as habitat animals. But then everyone thought, okay, well then prairie dogs and meerkats and stuff like that and skunks and so on won't be a thing in this game. And then they brought them in as a habitat animal. And so obviously there is a fair question why certain other animals are not habitat animals. So we have koalas, but then we have sloth as walkthrough exhibit animals. We have kind of raccoons and stuff like that, but we don't have the iguanas as habitat animals. See, it's a bit hard to argue why, and definitely it is a time reason, they also evolved over time, I get this, but the customizability of specifically the exhibits is limited, and I don't want to say it's bad or anything, but it's just compared to what the game offers in other areas, it's limited. You just have a couple of toggles, you have a bit of colorized options, and that's about it, And so these boxes obviously become very much very boring after a while. And I don't really know anyone who's a big fan of them in terms of using them way too often. They're a thing, they can be used in a nice way, and maybe one of the little things they've never fixed is give us a null option of the boxes, and there obviously is a mod for that, but it's I can't judge mods in a review of a game, obviously, and so that is a bit of a stretch. So it's definitely 4 out of 5. And also one other thing I have to mention is the pathing. The pathing in this game isn't the greatest out there, as we all know. It's not as bad as many people say, but it's definitely not as great as it could be. And since this is one part of customization, I just have to give that at least 1 star less than 5 stars, because whatever you do with this pathing system, you can't give a game 5 stars in this area. So we end up with 4 out of 5, as I said over here. Now let's get into a topic that I wished I had to talk about in a different way. And when I did this review last year for the people getting the console version, I was still hopeful to maybe at some point have a different take on that one. But we have to go into completion of the game, and I'll say it the way it is. I'm gonna give it a very fortunate and a very nice 3 out of 5. This is maybe a result of my talks to Eben and the lady and many other players, because maybe I'm too harsh on that. I would have given this also a 2.5 out of 5, but I do get the argument that not everyone needs so many other animals. But we also have to be fair, and we have to say it the way it is, and this is simply the fact we are missing out on so many things like birds and full aquatic animals. And this is not a small portion of the animal wildlife or zoo animals. If you compare that with a theme park game, it almost feels like as if we are missing out on wooden coasters and water rides. If you compare that to a sports game, it would almost feel like as if we only have half of the European leagues involved in the game, or let's say only half of the teams of one league, for example. As much as I love the way how they have, integrated everything else, but the fact we don't have birds in this game, I mean, we have birds, but you get it. I'm talking about really I'm talking about raptors, vultures, and eagles, and owls, hummingbirds, and all these kind of real birds that fly, and you would have in an aviary or in a house or whatnot, or even in an air show for a wildlife reserve. You have that kind of a lot in Germany, for example. It's missing. And even though we are right away flying over my seal area over here, we only have a couple of semi-aquatic animals. Well, we don't have fish. We don't have full aquatic animals, or even stuff like sea turtles, for example. Even those would be potentially semi-aquatic, if you will. But there is again such a big area, and some people even argue that it would be a Planet Aquarium as a game, and this is why they took that out. I have a very specific opinion on that, and my opinion is there is not enough for a Planet Aquarium as a whole game in the way how the Planet games are set up. I'm not saying there is no way of making an aquarium game. Other games have shown that, But what I'm saying is, if you have a take like Planet Zoo has with that level of customizability and everything you do, I just feel like that it's not enough for a solely aquarium focused game. And also with the conservation aspect they are using, if you do an aquarium game, you obviously need to have every single animal that would technically be in an aquarium or has been in an aquarium, and I could totally see why they are against certain animals in an aquarium, just like some, for example, orcas or so, because they just do not belong in an aquarium anyways anymore. But there are still enough animals, and please, we're talking about a game here, okay? I'm not talking about the fact that obviously we would be against certain animals, but that's a totally different story. I don't want to talk about this too much because that is nothing to do in a review. It's an animal game, so I'm judging the animals in or not in. So, speaking of the completion, as I said, a very fortunate 3 out of 5, if you ask me, and I feel like this opens every single door to a new game that brings in, hopefully, these two very vital areas to a game like this. So, we have to talk about the next point, which is longevity. Alright, so after the bummer a little bit of completion, we talk about longevity. And at this point, I have to mention my beloved park, Yosemite Valley, which is also one of the footages you will see during this review. Now, Yosemite Valley, for those of you who don't know, and please let me make this little point that will explain why my rating for longevity is a 5 out of 5. This park has been the start of my Planet Zoo era, and this has been also the restart of my channel, and the whole series of Yosemite Valley is now slowly crouching towards over 2 million views, which let alone is ridiculous. But it also showed how many times I came back to this park, which seemed to be finished for so many times, but holy cow, have I changed this over the time. And this park is such a beautiful example because I have started with this at the very base game without any DLC, any mod, any cosmetic or whatever. And I have done so many things that over the time have been changed. And just to name a few little things, I have made an implied habitat for both for the meerkats and for the sea lions or penguins or whatever you want to call, but I want to take specifically the meerkat and the sea lions. The reason why I'm saying this is pretty simple, because it almost feels like Frontier has downloaded this file and used it to bring these in, because both habitats I've made implied just worked out perfectly fine by just dropping in these animals, and they worked, which was very, very great to see. But there's another thing, just to show you the other side of the medal, because there are so many other things they have done. I built myself some sequoia trees out of a bajillion pieces. I think one tree featured like 500 pieces or so, and then all of a sudden 3 years in, Frontier brought some wonderful sequoia trees into the game, and you will see them also during the flyover, and I could basically change them. And I have some, there's a video where I look at this. The trees were exactly the same size like mine were. They were so similar, and yet again I had the feeling maybe they did, and this is something Frontier is very good at. They have listened to a lot of feedback. But we are talking about longevity and not what they've done for me personally. But I wanted to give you these examples to show that they have brought so much in along the way during these 5 years that this game now is so replayable. It is absolutely insane. And I want to get into one comment that I got when Planet Zoo was announced. I remember very, very much, like it was yesterday, that under the reveal video, the announcement video, I had... yeah, I would say almost 30% of the comments, because back in the day, Planet Coaster was the game of choice. And so many people were fearing that the Zoo game will not be very long-living, and specifically the replayability will suffer a lot, because you can only do so many habitats, people were claiming. And back in the day, I was looking at these comments like, maybe they're right, maybe they're not, I don't know. And now I can say with like the biggest confidence ever that this game is, the way it is way more replayable than Planet Coaster ever was. The reason for that is simple. It has so much more things, so much more biomes, so much more different landscapes in which you can build. The landscape editor has been improved. We have weather. You can build in different temperature biome, like real biomes, and I'm not talking about backdrops and maps, but these are actual biomes that have influence to the way you play in terms of temperature and weather, which Planet Coaster didn't even feature. And also, so many animals have so many things to it that you can always change. You can make habitats indoor, outdoors, you can make them themed or not themed, you can do it easy or complicated, you can make habitats by now as like a petting area, you can make them habitats as like something with a ride that you can explore that. You can make safari rides, you can make boat rides, you can have like your own zoo with cameras and live streams and whatnot. You can do so many things in this game. It's almost ridiculous. And I have been playing this game, I think, my Steam does say less, but there was like also new alpha, beta, whatever. I think you can safe say that I've played over 3,000 hours. This is already quite a big time, but there's also people who have played almost double the amount of time. And yes, I'm a creator, but I would have potentially played this game myself even that long anyways, because there is just so much to do, and I have even just touched a very fraction of what the game offers. And honestly, at this point, I'm like, I remember when Planet Coaster kind of came to an end, because Planet Zoo was released, and we knew that the support was ending. At this point, my urge to play Planet Coaster completely went away relatively quickly, because without anything new to the game, it really felt like there was not really that much I can do, because I've had almost built every coaster, every ride, and so on. In this game, I have not built a habitat for every animal in the game, not even remotely. I have not even done any build style I wanted to. I have not built in every biome I wanted to. I haven't even finished half of my zoos. Like, there's so much I could do, which is not saying that I will play this forever, but I will say that I will play this game most likely a lot longer. In fact, I have already played this game a lot longer than Planet Coaster. Planet Coaster ended at 2,500 hours or so I've played, and I already surpassed that ratio with Planet Zoo. And also also, I have to admit that in the Planet Coaster time, I didn't have a baby, you know, I didn't have a daughter. So the last 3.5 years have also been influenced by the fact that I have a kid, and so my time was more limited than it was in the Planet Coaster days. So yet another argument for how much more this has a longevity. But as in every good review, it shouldn't be a review for me personally. I just give you these examples to have a better understanding of what I'm saying. I think it's safe to say there are not enough objective and rational arguments to really say that longevity in this game is absolutely off the charts. It's 5 out of 5 for me personally. It is generally one of the best things, the best games I've ever played. There is so much in the game you can do, and once you have surpassed that break even of getting the grips of this game, which I do actually say is not the easiest to get into, you know, the learning curve is not so easy. It's not the steepest ever, but it's also not that easy. But once you've surpassed that break even, this game offers endless possibilities for you, and you can just enjoy every single bit of it so much and build whatever you want, you know. You can just do it. I think I have said this now more than enough so that we can finally come to the conclusion. And the conclusion, my friends, is a full rating, and I could do the math now and give you a, I don't know, 4 point blah blah blah, but I will say this is, judging by all the factors in, I will give this game, and hold on, this may actually be a little bit surprising, I'm gonna give it a 3.75 out of 5. This may be a bit odd, okay, because if you do the math, you will know that I should definitely be over 4. But there's one factor, and I'm just taking this factor on myself now, and I'm just doing a little bit of a cheat here, because these factors, these different aspects I had have to be weighted. And they were not weighted when I was talking about them, but I will weight them now. I feel like that gameplay and completion are way more important of a factor than customizability and Sandbox, for example. Animals are a factor for themselves, but I have to say that, you know, this game is ridiculously great, and it is absolutely a very strong rating from my side, and maybe even harsh and unfair, but this is why I'm taking the time now to explain. I love this game so much, and I think there's no denial that I've played I've played everything out of it, of the game, and the recommendation for this game is 100%. You don't have to ask if you want to get the game or not. This is a absolutely easy decision. Get this game. You know, you can decide which DLCs you want. I have a tier list. You can find out what you want, what you don't want. It's all good, but I still need to be fair in the rating, as like a rational, subjective rating. And as I've said last year in my review, I would have given the game easy 4 out of 5 stars. But the fact that I know now, and that we know now, the completion ratio is not going to be reached, and the management potentially is not going to be fixed that much anymore. This is what I need to say, also to leave some room for improvement, because I'm very certain that they will do a Planet Zoo 2 at some point, and if I were Frontier, I would do it, because this game has surpassed all expectations, and it would be very stupid to not do it. And also, and this is where I'm coming back to the very beginning of this video, we have to think about the fact that this game has been planned and started maybe a decade ago. So I know that there are a lot of people out there who still say, hey, why don't you just continue with this game and keep updating this and so on. I mean, have you guys seen what the technology is doing at the moment? AI and so on has a huge influence on everything. It's simply not, like, it's not rational anymore to continue on a game that is 10 years old from its core programming and from its core planning. There is so much you can improve, and you can see this in this video. I have seen so many glitches, so many people getting stuck somewhere, so many things that are not perfect, you know. We can overlook them because the game itself is great, but these things are there. It's not it's not something that we should neglect, you know. There is room for improvement, but this improvement cannot be reached with the current situation and with the current situation of this game, in fact, with the programming and the engine they're running it on. So they have to get at some point into a new era of engine, AI, locomotion systems and all these things. So I will say, as a conclusion, it is an absolutely great game, and it could have been and this is not looking at the technology, this is just a decision by the company, it could have been a way better game if they have focused on a bit more completion by giving us some birds and some full aquatic animals in the frames that the game offer. You know, I understand that some things may not be possible, but as they implemented the walkthrough exhibit, I actually thought, okay, now we're gonna see at least some birds, which, well, you can argue we have these butterflies and some bats, but you know, whatever. So at the end of the day, this is a great game, but there is still a lot of potential to improve. And my biggest caveat is, as I said, the completion of the game and the gameplay. I've talked about that again with a lot of balancing. This could have been better. And even though for me personally, I've talked so much about my personal feelings, but at this point, I will be very much not looking at them, because if it was about me, I wouldn't care so much for the gameplay, because I enjoy Sandbox way much more, but that's not how you rate a game. There are enough people out there who want to enjoy the management, and there are issues with the management, so we have to pinpoint them. But other than that, this is a must-have game if you have any kind of connection to animals and building games. You have to get this game just to enjoy Planet Zoo, because I feel like this is a game that will stand as a great game for many, many, many years. And yeah, this is my rating, and I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from, and you can follow, and maybe this helped you to decide whether you want to get the game or not. Because if you still don't have the game, imagine it's also out for console by now. You can get it for various systems right now. You can do so. And if you want to help me out and you found this video helpful, you can do so by clicking the Instant Gaming link down in my description, and you can get any DLC, the base game or what you want from this link. You help me directly by reaching my goals and getting a tiny bit of the price, and you will buy it for the, I think, lowest price available at the moment. There's a great discount on all the things, and if you don't want to have Planet Zoo or Planet Coaster, you can also get it via this link. That would be of a great help, and you would show that you enjoyed this wonderful review over here, and this was helpful for you. Now, also, this is the point where you leave your feedback in the comments down below. Let's have an open discussion. How would you rate all these categories? And I'm very curious to see what you guys are saying. Now, I talk to you as always in the next one. Have a wonderful day, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, by the way, help me reach this 90K. We are almost there, just a couple of hundred people missing to be part of this wonderful crew over here. So yeah, if you haven't clicked that subscribe button yet, it's a good point to do so. And yeah, I'll leave you now with a couple more frames of this wonderful game, and then I hope you guys have a wonderful time. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful weekend, and goodbye.